Also, we want to make very clear that the views expressed in this program does not, the content of this program does not reflect the views of the management of Grant Housing nor that of the tenant council. We want to make that very clear. But first, before we bring on our guests, we have a short review of the off-Broadway play, an adaptation of Richard Wright's Native Son. It's playing at the Duke Theater on 42nd Street, and it closes on August 24th. We highly recommend this play. The theatrical adaptation of Native Son that was written by Richard Wright in 1939. It set off quite a controversy, particularly among the Black elite, who felt that the pathological criminality of Bigger Thomas was just a bit much and set the race back. But nevertheless, Richard Wright pursued, and we have this Broadway production that is riveting, very tightly played out in a non-linear fashion. It doesn't go chronologically, but it tells the story of 20-year-old Bigger Thomas, who lived in a one-room flat on the south side of Chicago with his mother, brother, and sister. And Bigger was employed as a chauffeur by a wealthy Chicago family. He accidentally kills the daughter and he flees, and it sets in motion his descent into this almost pathological criminality that is captured so well that leaves one riveted to this play. There is never a dull moment. We don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but we would urge everyone, if you can, please see the play Native Son playing at the Duke Theater on 42nd Street. And now we are going to go to our guest. That is Dr. Gerald Horne. We're going to bring him on shortly, but before we do, just let me give you a little bit of background on this amazing historian. And I can't think of a better segue into this interview with Dr. Horne than to talk about Richard Wright's Native Son. And we continue to have so many Native Sons with us here today. It is a timely play. But let's talk about Dr. Gerald Horne as we're getting him on the line. This is an amazing, prolific author, writer, essayist. Dr. Gerald Horne received his PhD in history from Columbia University and his JD from the University of California, Berkeley, and his BA from Princeton University. Dr. Horne is the author of more than 30 books and 100 scholarly articles and reviews. The range of his subject matter is too numerous to talk about, but we're going to get into some of that when we have our interview with him. But we will include some of his more recent work. One is the apocalyptic we don't have any light in here, of settler colonialism, and that is the roots of slavery, white supremacy, and capitalism in 17th century North America and the Caribbean. He is also the author of Counter-Revolution of 1776, Slave Resistance, and the Origins of the United States of America. And also one of my favorites, Race Woman, The Lives of Shirley Graham Du Bois. I believe we have Dr. Horn on.
Not yet.
We're still getting him on, and let me go back to, because we're going to start off with his first book that I sort of butchered through, but we're going to go over that again. The range of his work, the university where he was. Oh, we're getting him on right now.
Take a quick break now.
Okay, Dr. Horn, welcome to Behind the News. Dr. Horn?
No, let's take a quick break before we get there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to take a quick. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Okay. He had it on the machine. I don't think he knew. You got to call him and tell him that I'm calling him.
I did tell him.
You gave my number? No. Yeah, he did. Because I got a machine when I dialed. Let me call him again. I don't know what happened. Oh, okay. Doc? Okay, this is the radio station. I'm Doug the engineer, Rivinelli.
Okay.
Not on the air yet, so so relax. We're good. Okay, you ready, Doc? We're going to go in there in just a second.
She said 11 a.m. She said 12 noon, and it's now 10 after 12.
That's, okay, you didn't do anything wrong, Doc. That was my bad about that. Go ahead, Nelly. He's here.
Dr. Horn, welcome to the program.
Okay.
Okay, now I think we are together here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it sounds like you're in a tunnel.
Oh, okay. It sounds as if you are far away. So, Doug, can I take off the headphones?
Sure.
Dr. Horn, can you? Doug, I need more volume.
Go ahead, see if he responds.
Okay, Dr. Horn, we are still setting up here. I'm going to put my headphones on. Can you hear me, Dr. Horn?
Yes. We should go ahead.
Right. He said he can hear.
I can't hear him.
Oh, you couldn't hear him?
No.
Doc, can you speak up now?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Can you hear Nelly?
Yes, better now.
Okay, can he hear you? Can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. He can hear you.
Okay, Dr. Horn, welcome to Behind the News, and we are broadcasting from the radio station of Grant Housing Community Radio right here in New York City in the village of Harlem. And we are so pleased and honored to have you on the program. Dr. Horn, I thought we could start off with discussing within a historical context the era of Trumpism. Trump, as we know, is an aberration, and it does not give us or suggest that there is a historical legacy of race and slavery that you talked about in your most recent publication, The Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism, the Roots of Slavery, White Supremacy, and Capitalism in 17th Century North America and the Caribbean. Can we begin there in you explaining to our listeners the origins of U.S. empire, so to speak?
Sure. But before we get started, can you give me the URL of the station so I can pass it on?
Oh, okay, Doc. We're on ghcr.nyc, or we're on YouTube as well, and it's live at Grant.
GHR.
No, GHCR.
GHCR.
.nyc. Yeah, just click on studio. And we're also available on YouTube. We're live on YouTube on our YouTube channel. You just type in live at Grant and you can get us on YouTube. And you can leave a comment if you want.
Okay. Now, with regard to the question, the book that you referenced, The Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism, in the opening lines makes the point that in the early 1600s, England, the nation whose language we are now speaking, was a minor power on the fringes of Europe. But by the end of the 1600s, England was a major power, already in control of a good deal, although certainly not all, of North America, and well on its way to superpower status, and then passing on the baton to its revolting spawn, now known as the United States of America, which revolted from London's empire in 1776, as we well know, and has carried on that role of being a superpower well into the 21st century, although, as is well known, there is some question as to how long in the 21st century that eminence will obtain in light of the fact that, not least because of deals cut by U.S. imperialism in order to subdue the former Soviet Union, a deal was cut with China, which now has China in the passing lane, which has caused a great deal of hysteria in Washington and on Wall Street. China Daily calls it hegemonic anxiety disorder. And that raises questions as to how long this so-called empire will continue. That's point number one. Point number two is we're speaking, obviously, to an audience in New York, and I just finished reading the Sunday New York Times, which carries a special section on slavery, what they refer to as the 1619 Project. Now, I just finished a book on the 1500s, and I point out that you had enslaved Africans in North America before 1619. Of course, everybody knows about St. Augustine, Florida, and how it claims to be the permanent European settlement in North America, starting in 1565. And of course, as early as the 1520s, the Spanish from their perch in Santo Domingo, what is now the Dominican Republic, had brought enslaved Africans to what is now South Carolina, and they had revolted and rebelled and gone over to the Native American side. And effectively what happened was that Spain, even though it had a first mover's advantage because it was Spain that commissioned Christopher Columbus, was not able to extend its jurisdiction around North America, not least because of alliances between African and indigenous populations, which created an opening for London, which, as you know, starts a settlement in what they call Virginia in 1607, and then that leading to the so-called 1619 moment. Now, I mentioned this New York Times piece because it's just really striking. In some ways, and I regret having to say this, quite frankly, the corporate media, the New York Times, and this special segment on slavery, in many ways is more ideologically advanced than some of our quote friends, unquote, on the left, in terms of an understanding of slavery and its role in building the United States, and its understanding of how slavery animated the revolt against British rule in 1776. Because as you know, our friends on the left, they still have a sort of a 1920 analysis around the United States of America. In many ways, they still cling to this misunderstanding of slavery. I mean, and then, given that, it's little wonder why we're now talking about being on the verge of fascism when you have the corporate media to the left of those who say that they're radical. Obviously, this makes no sense, but it speaks the very dangerous and perilous moment that we now face.
Dr. Horn, can you talk about why white supremacy was such a vital cog in this imperialist strategy?
Well, a couple points. One, I was on C-SPAN, and you can still find the discussion on c-span.org. It was July 5th, 2019. I was speaking at San Coco Bookstore in Washington, D.C. And ostensibly, I was speaking on my new book on the music we call jazz, and I was speaking on this book on Southern Africa. But on July 5th, 2019, I just finished the manuscript on the 1500s, which deals in no small measure with the roots of white supremacy. And the way I explained it in this manuscript and summarized it on C-SPAN is that you can't understand the rise of white supremacy, capitalism, slavery, without understanding the religious conflicts that animated the 1500s. We all know that in 1517, Martin Luther led a revolt against the hegemonic Roman Catholic Church, cited in what we call the Vatican in Italy, because of perceived corruption on the part of the Catholic Church. This leads to bloodletting on a massive scale between Protestants, and interestingly enough, a disproportionate percentage of Black Americans, at least formally subscribe to the Protestant faith. Interestingly enough, we can get into some of the contradictions of that if you're interested. But
Yes, we are.
It leads to this, okay, it leads to this massive bloodletting between Protestants and Catholics. As a matter of fact, in the 1500s book, I talk about St. Bartholomew's Massacre. So everybody has smartphones, and instead of using them to look up Nicki Minaj, use it to look up St. Bartholomew's Massacre, 1572.
Excuse me, Dr. Horn, you're going in and out. Can you talk closer to the mic?
Okay, how's that?
Oh, perfect.
So 1572, the Catholics in France invite the Protestants to a meeting, and then call upon them to slaughter them, thousands of type violence. This was not atypical. This was usual. But what happens is that as the riches of the Americas are uncovered, there's a kind of reconciliation between Protestants and Catholics, particularly in North America. And they rebrand themselves as, quote, white, unquote, in a manner that would make Madison Avenue marvel, this rebranding exercise. That is to say, those who have been warring on the shores of Europe, not only on religious grounds, but also on ethnic grounds. English versus Irish, English versus Scotch, English versus Welsh, British versus German, German versus Russian, Russian versus Pole, Serb versus Croat, Italian, Southern Italian versus Northern Italian. All of a sudden, when they cross the Atlantic, they have this new identity. There's a new identity politics that's militarized, interestingly enough, called whiteness, which plants the seeds of what we now refer to as white supremacy. And then that white supremacy is then galvanized by the process whereby indigenous populations are basically liquidated and their land was taken. And then Africans were dragged kicking and screaming across the Atlantic to work that land, creating enormous wealth. Now, in my Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism book, I talk about the so-called Sugar Revolution. That is to say that in 1655, the English out the Spanish from Jamaica. And at the same time, you have Jewish populations from Brazil who are fleeing Brazil because the Portuguese, who had originally colonized Brazil, had been ousted temporarily by the Dutch, and the Dutch had sheltered this Jewish population, which has then mastered the dark art of making sugar out of the compelled forced labor of enslaved Africans. But with the Portuguese making a comeback in 1654, 1655, the Jewish population feared that the Inquisition would follow. Recall that on the Iberian Peninsula, which contains Spain and Portugal, and are predominantly Catholic areas, there has been an Inquisition. That is to say, you had to convert to Catholicism or die, basically, or be tortured. And this burden particularly fell upon the Jewish population, which then fled to Dutch territory, also fled to English territory to a certain degree. Because even though England had expelled its Jewish population in 1290, by the 1600s, it was a scrappy underdog seeking to compete with the dominant power that was Spain, and so therefore it made the compromise of embracing the Jewish population, inviting the Jewish population to shelter in Jamaica, which leads to the sugar boom, which leads to great wealth pouring into the coffers of London, which allows London to build a bigger navy, which allows London, with this bigger navy, to oust the Dutch from the city that they call New Amsterdam. Of course, a stone's throw from Amsterdam. And that takes place in 1664. The city is as Christian as New York, and New York City, and by 1672, with the wealth that it had accumulated, London decided to shut to the tide. The African slave trade organized the Royal African Company, which leads to a great leap forward in terms of African surviving on sweeping library of language, the ethical century in these events of serious.
Dr. Holmes, were these forces, these imperialist powers, able to fine-tune the masculine race power that we still and talk about the Haitian Revolution as the first major to that. Confronting black gentlemen. The Haitian Revolution, a general crisis of the entire slave system. Black Republic, you saw the revolutionary were interested in the foreign lives. And not least to neighboring Barbados, where London ruled. London realized that the jig was identity. Moved from abolish rule in the 1833 to abolish slavery in Antigua and Barbados. In one major ceremony featuring then Prime Minister Tony Blair and Queen Elizabeth marking the end of London's role again, of course, it was to protest how striking at the time, 12 years ago, there was no pressure from the move to abolish its own role in 1808. No even though black people walking through New York and curious episode worthy of further with the Haitian Revolution, the abolition of slavery in Jamaica, Barbados, there was enormous pressure placed on the United States to move similarly, but it dug its heel. And in fact, not only dug its heel, but killed in 1836. U.S. was led by from whom the city of Houston, Texas, and Stephen Austin, for whom the city of Austin, Texas, its name. And it's from the United States and to Texas, which was then part of Mexico. But in the 1820s, Mexico had moved slavery under the leadership of a president who was he was president of Mexico 180 years before the election of one Barack Obama. But Sam Houston and Austin the Republic of Texas became a major in its own right, from Angola to Galveston, Texas, which, by the way, is the birthplace of boxing champion Jack Johnson. There is a statue of Jack Johnson in downtown Galveston, and he's familiar with the movie The Great. James Earl Jones as Jack Johnson.
London, and therefore joins the United States of America in 1845, where it does. And listeners might be wondering that factoid I brought ago about which leads to a president of Africa in Mexico. And that leads us to something that in terms of being as well. Ideological and the theory. And in terms of just attending to the basics of the quote of game. Which I just referenced, because even though it's to the left of the desire, in contrast, Spain, why doesn't it? Why they're speaking English and not Spanish, even though Spain had the first movers advantage because they commissioned Columbus. The Spanish colonial project, as I say in the C-SPAN lecture that I mentioned a moment ago, it basically privileged religion. Now, you could be the black conquistador, like Longarito, if you subscribe to the Roman Catholic faith. And that's, you can draw a straight line from the 1500s to, say, Vicente Guerrero in the 1820s. Whereas the underdog Protestants, who had an uphill climb to dislodge not only the Spanish, but also the Ottoman Turks, they changed the paradigm. What they did was they published the concept of race. That is to say, they created a broader base for settler colonialism by basically making compromises not only with the so-called Catholic enemy, but also with the so-called Scottish enemy, the so-called Irish enemy, etc. They're all rebranded as white. I mean, for example, Maryland, or Maryland, Baltimore, it's a city that's founded by Catholics. This is something that would not be allowed in Spanish territories, that is to say, cities founded by the enemy Protestants. And so, once again, in order to understand race, you have to understand religion. And in order to understand race and racism and white supremacy and lynching, you have to understand its religious root. I mean, for example, if you look at lynchings, for example, they have a kind of ritualistic aspect towards them that is reminiscent of religion. And I think one of the leading failures of some of our historians is to neglect to plumb the religious root of race, racism, and white supremacy.
Yeah, Dr. Horn, can you talk a bit closer to your mic? Let me deal with the first part of the question that I asked specifically about Haiti and how the Haitian Revolution sent shockwaves throughout Europe. And also from an ideological point of view, it challenged the notion of the master race and white supremacy. And Haiti, even today, is still paying a price for that challenge to Europe, in that the country continues to pay reparations to France. Can you address that?
Oh, sure. I mean, the so-called reparations began in the 1820s, and in fact, what's striking is that after the success of the Haitian Revolution in 1804, you see many of the slave owners, they flee to the United States. They flee to Savannah, they flee to Charleston, they flee to Norfolk, they flee to Philadelphia and New York City. They also flee to New Orleans. And recall that by 1803, coincidentally enough, France, because of its, in the process of losing the most profitable colony that it possessed, speaking of what we now call Haiti, or what used to be called Hispaniola, divide the island of Greenland from Denmark, for example, including its 56,000 people who live there. And of course, the government in Copenhagen, and this is not a progressive government, thought it was an April Fool's joke. But apparently they didn't realize that the U.S. empire still has heady and dreamy ideas of recreating the past. In any case, back to the major threat. So when the United States takes New Orleans, and you have many of the slave owners fleeing from Haiti, or going to these former slave owners in New Orleans, allowing them to buy more enslaved Africans. And it also helps us understand why before 1861, before slavery was destroyed, that New Orleans was one of the richest cities on planet Earth, not only because of slavery, but also because of reparations payments going from Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, to New Orleans. Now, you ask about the shockwaves of the Haitian Revolution. I think I sort of indicated that with regard to its connection to the abolition of London's role in the African slave trade, and then leading to London abolishing slavery itself in 1833, 1834, and that's sending ripples into Washington, leading Washington to help to engineer the secession of Texas in 1836, creating another slave owning power. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to your audience that these ideas may have been attenuated to a certain extent. They certainly haven't disappeared. That's part of the struggle we're still facing today. That's part of the struggle that we still face in terms of being escorted out of so-called white spaces. Because I think that, once again, in terms of the failures of historians, and I would say also this New York Times piece this morning, which I just referenced, and I would urge your listeners to look at that, because it's right on your newsstand. I mean, or you can look at it online if you don't want to pay for it. These were the major ideological trends amongst Euro-Americans, or as they refer to themselves, the so-called white Americans. One was a pro-slavery faction, and of course slavery was cited in Dixie, although slave trading was cited in Manhattan and Rhode Island in particular. That is, say, the financing of the African slave trade, and to a certain extent the financing of slavery itself. Lehman Brothers, for example, is a good exemplar of what I'm referring to, headquartered in Manhattan, but with strong ties to Dixie, particularly Alabama. So one, there's the pro-slavery faction. Secondly, there's the faction that I think its strength has been overestimated, and that's the abolitionist anti-slavery faction, which of course is headquartered amongst the enslaved themselves, with a few Euro-American supporters, such as John Brown, who, as you know, later tried to lead an armed revolt against slavery in Virginia in 1859, and for its troubles was captured and executed. But the way that historians tell the story, they're trying to make, I guess, white Americans feel better about themselves. You would think that John Brown was like this mad popular figure amongst white Americans. His ideas represent hegemony. And of course they did not. And that's one of the many reasons we're talking seriously about being on the verge of fascism, because of a misestimation of political forces, and a misestimation in particular of the strength of white supremacy and racism, so that these liberal historians, most of whom are defined as white, can feel better about themselves and living on stolen land built up by stolen labor. But in any case, the third faction, and I would say this is, in some ways, the dominant faction, particularly after the defeat of the pro-slavery faction just referenced, is the white man's country faction. That's why in Oregon, in the 1850s, when it enters the Union, there's no Negroes allowed. Interestingly enough, Portland, Oregon, the site of a major demonstration of pro-fascists yesterday,
Yes.
has one of the smallest black populations as a terrorist organization. He announces on the day that Antifa is confronting fascists in the streets of Portland. He didn't talk about branding the fascists as pro-terrorists, even though we saw the spectacle of El Paso shooting and the spectacle of attacks on synagogues and Charleston, South Carolina churches by pro-fascist elements. No, he's saying brand Antifa as the terrorist.
Right, the anti-fascist organization. But Dr. Horn, because our time is slipping away, just let me ask you this. You said in a recent interview, and this is along the line of the lines of the discussion that we're having, that you had miscalculated the strength of the right wing, the U.S. right wing, and its capacity for counter-revolution. Can you talk about that within this Portland, Oregon, Antifa, and this move, as we have recently learned, even within the FBI, to not go after these pro-fascist movements and leaders?
Well, I mean, you need only look at the point that as we speak in August 2019, there's no guarantee that the 46th U.S. president will be defeated months hence in November 2020. It's to say, as I've said in other interviews, the plea that in some ways the base of the Republican Party, 63 million strong, overwhelmingly comprised of Federalists who find themselves as core white, thereby reaching back to lineage and a legacy that goes back to the origins of settler colonialism, the origins of disproportionate genocide of Native Americans, and the mass enslavement of Africans. That's really the roots of whiteness. This term, so many Europeans blatantly and categorically attach to themselves. This state, in some ways, is to the leaders. And I think that just as you have many black people, they vote for the Democratic Party not because they're necessarily happy with it, but as they make an analysis, it's a way from their point of view to kill the supremacy of the Republican Party. Now, of course, we can argue quarrel about the part of the analysis. I think it's understandable that many people vote for the Democrats. But what needs to be understood is that many of those that find this way they were voting for Republicans because they saw them as the most viable alternative to get to the conservative Shangri-La. What I mean is that ultimately, I think that this country is marching step by step towards a counter-revolution. The worst case scenario would involve a turning back the clock of the back to Jim Crow or perhaps even back to slavery, and that you have Republicans in Washington who are trying to do this step by step. Let us say pass the courts, shred the safety net, get rid of food stamps, get rid of Social Security, etc. And then you have those who would like to see a faster track. What I'm trying to suggest to you is that a good deal of the base of the Republican Party would like to see a faster track, but as they see it, Donald Trump is their instrument. That is the most viable instrument today on the political scene that moves them closer to their goal. Now, that is a rather sobering political estimate, I'm afraid to say, and it also bespeaks another point, which I should mention, and it has been implicit in a lot of remarks for the past 50 minutes, is that your listeners may be wondering, given this rather sordid tale that I've unfolded about genocide, mass enslavement, well, how did we get to the point where we are today? And I would say it's through international alliances, and that's something that's missing mostly from our organizations, from our leaders. They don't have a clue as to what's going on in the world. I mean, it's a normal, ordinary principle of diplomatic practice that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That is to say that even the United States in 1942, when it was fighting enemies in Berlin and Tokyo, decided to make a deal with Moscow, even though Moscow was supposed to be the devil incarnate. The black Americans, as best as I can understand, they have no clue as to, I mean, they seem to think the enemy of my enemy is my enemy. That is to say, if Washington doesn't like the Soviet Union, they don't like the Soviet Union. If Washington doesn't like China, they don't like China.
So Dr. Horn, we only have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to get to the current political situation today, both nationally and globally, but in particular the latter. We see, surely everyone agrees that the sun rises in the east and that it is China. And when we look at the geopolitical alliance of China and Russia, and you can include Iran in that, they are challenging U.S. empire. And with the fears being expressed about a coming global recession and the fact that the U.S. dollar is no longer backed by gold since 1971 under Richard Nixon, where do you see where we are headed? Where are we headed in terms of this geopolitical shift in realities that is challenging U.S. empire?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have my crystal ball with me.
What's your best analysis, not your crystal ball prediction?
That's a joke. Don't take it personally. Well, it's sort of unclear. I mean, I think that the smart money is on China. And people need to realize how they got to this point. It goes back to my book about the 1500s. If I can go to that. As I said, the minor power. The major powers are mature. And basically what happened is that England decided to ally with the Ottoman Turks to hammer Spain.
Dr. Horn, we can't hear you.
I know I stopped talking because you had to problem.
That's okay. Doug is taking care of that. But if you could continue and talk close to your mic.
Okay, sir. All right. And so basically, what happened in the 1970s is that the United States, in order to bring down the Soviet Union, got to deal with China. And China, in return, waged war on the Soviet ally, which is Vietnam, by the late 1970s. And then, in compensation, there's massive direct foreign investment into China, which creates this juggernaut. I mean, China's now the number 2 power economically. It has a population 4 times the size of that of the United States. It's an initiative that's Belt and Road Initiative, which is basically, in short, trying to create railways and shipping lanes that will have all the roads lead to China. As we speak, you can just a train from the northeastern coast of China into Portugal. Exactly. And across Russia. And so the United States, in fact, is in debt to China to the tune of about $1 trillion. That's how the government stays involved. That's how sales are financed, that's how Social Security is financed, etc. But no, under the advice of former counselor Steve Bannon, Mr. Trump has decided to launch this trade war with regard to China, but he's blank. Recall that just a few days ago he announced that he's reducing some of the tariffs, that is, the taxes on Chinese exports to the United States, so that U.S. shoppers during the Christmas holidays don't have to pay higher prices. And so, right now, it looks as if China is in the passing lane. But the problem for China is that in order to get to this position of preeminence, it has to cut a lot of their evil. I mentioned before on Vietnam, for example, because I mentioned its support for the genocidal criminal revolution in Cambodia, in Southern Africa. I'll talk about the alliance of China with U.S. imperialism and parts of Africa and Europe. And this has made it difficult for China to imperialism. I mean, for example, as you know, it's difficult in the United States to talk to a black person without just talking about China as a new colonialism. And I think that's really up to okay, that given China's rather sordid role before the period, it helps to give influence to that sort of nonsense. And I want to urge and encourage Black Americans that you're going to speak on these issues to at least be a little bit informed, because the stakes are very high right now. I mean, the things can be the difference between a fascist regime, full-throated, full-blooded, and what we have today.
Dr. Horn, I believe our time is up, but I do have another request because there were so many unanswered sort of, not questions, but areas we need to explore so that our listeners can really get this complete picture of the many issues that you brought up that we could discuss. U.S. left and what they saw behind the emergence of China, the contradictions of China in Africa, the Belt and Road Initiative, and what it might mean for China that a lot of people are pushing, and that the equation that comes forth is that the Chinese are building infrastructure, whereas the Americans are coming with guns. So is it possible that we can continue this next week, or shall I follow up with you to see what your availability is?
Well, for the latter, and my final point, China's Museum of Civilization which is a major attraction, something else just one line, physically, a major library, the jewels and drama of the museum. And this economy during what I'll call battle days of 1970s China, a railway from landlocked Zambia to the Dar es Salaam port.
Yeah, exactly. I was there when they were building it. Go ahead.
And not be strangled by apartheid South Africa and the racist regime in Rhodesia. And so, once again, I would urge and encourage our listeners, if they're going to speak on these questions, to try to educate themselves. I was in New York recently. Everybody else had a cell phone that gives you a whole library in your right hand or your left hand. So, use it to look at useful sources, not least the Grant House Community Radio source.
Okay, Dr. Horn, thank you very much. I will be in touch with you. And again, thank you for your wonderful insight. And then plus, when if you come back, when you come back, we want to look at your research methods and how you choose these various topics. Again, thank you so much. This is Behind the News, hosted and produced by Nellie Hester Bailey, here in the studio of Grant Community Housing Radio. We thank you, and we look forward to talking with you next Sunday.